Before I begin, just confirm to me that you can see and hear me okay?
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, Maulana Sahab, much better today. Alhamdulillah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وآل محمد.
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المنتجبين المعصومين الشهداء الصالحين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أرواحنا له الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يهاجر في سبيل الله يجد في الأرض مراغما كثيرا وسعة ومن يخرج من بيته مهاجرا إلى الله ورسوله ثم يدركه الموت فقد وقع أجره على الله وكان الله غفورا رحيما. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Respected elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we are now at the second night of Muharram of this year. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to be here, albeit virtually, but at least alhamdulillah we are here remembering our beloved Imam, remembering his martyrdom, remembering the importance of his sacrifice, and we can exchange some ideas and some knowledge in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today's lecture is going to be about the long human journey. Yesterday, we had touched upon a few foundational points which we needed to touch upon to assist us in the rest of this series. And the title verse of these lectures is from Surah number 4, Surah An-Nisa, verse number 100. وَمَنْ يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ يَجِدْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُرَاغَمًا كَثِيرًا وَسَعَةً. Whoever migrates in the way of Allah will find many safe havens and plenitude in the earth. And whoever leaves his home migrating toward Allah and His Prophet, ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتِ, and then is overtaken by death, فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ, his reward shall certainly fall on Allah, and Allah is all forgiving, all merciful. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Yesterday, we discussed this verse. I provided you some questions and some thinking points. We discussed a few different things. Inshallah, I hope you have managed to think over them, discuss them with your family, with your children, with your spouses. And we made a few points about how we can best gain the maximum benefit from this holy month of Muharram. And one of those things was to avoid controversies, because these controversies then become distractions. And today's lecture, we are going to focus a lot on the distractions around us. So it's very important, like any important life event, okay? Sometimes I don't understand when I look at some of the mu'mineen and I see that, they say, for example, I have work, my work is very important. And work is, of course, very important. I have my business is very important. I have school, I have education, and these things are very important. Yes, I agree. They are all very important. So what happens when you have, for example, this is more of an example for the younger members of our community. When you have, for example, a exam. So you have an exam. What do? Well, I reckon that you
Shaykh Sahab, you're on. Jazakallah.
Okay. I don't know how that happened. It wasn't from me. I don't know if it's the system, but anyway, I will just go back a couple of minutes and start again.
It was just the last 30 seconds. So it's okay.
Okay. So we have some important times in our lives. We have, for example, exams, we have tests, we have different work commitments, business commitments. And when there's something very, very important in our lives, what we do is we change our lifestyle. Okay. So leading up to an exam in school, for example, we tend to change our lifestyles. Our children, they socialize less. They spend less time on other things. They spend more time in studying and revision. They spend more time studying and reading. They may, for example, say, you know what, if you don't mind, I will not eat with the family. I will eat in my room because then I can study more. I will go out less. I will do less sports. So when there is something important, we switch off distractions. We take away other things. We put a pause on some things in our life. Okay. When there's outside of the exam time, those things were important to us. But in exam time, we say, no, exams are more important. So I will devote more time to my education. I want to ask you a question, dear mu'mineen, mu'minat. Why don't we do that for religion? When we have religious times, when we have Mahe Ramadan, Mahe Muharram, other things, we don't do that. We just treat it as any old thing. No, my business has to come first. My job has to come first. My school has to come first. When I have time, I will do my religion. But I think that's wrong. That's very wrong because it shows that we have not understood the priorities. We are willing to do it for every worldly thing. We are not willing to do it for religious things. So I'm telling you, I would like to give you this humble piece of advice that during these times of Muharram and other times in the year, we have to stop our other distractions and we have to sort of change our lifestyle a little bit in order to facilitate a better engagement with our religion and religious times. The next thing we said yesterday was that we have to align ourselves with the objectives of Imam Hussein. We cannot hope to benefit from these days of Muharram, to benefit from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we don't know why we're doing it. We don't know why he did anything. I said yesterday that the key thing is Islah, reformation, improvement. Okay? Why do we say that? Because Imam Hussein himself says that. When he's leaving Medina, many people, they tell him, oh Hussein, why are you going? Why are you taking this stand? Why are you leaving your hometown? Many people tried to persuade him not to leave. He said, no, I'm not going for any other reason except al-islah, for reformation. So we also need to be in the same line of thinking that we also wish to do islah of ourselves, of our community, of our world, of our fellow citizens, our country, everything. But we need islah. Okay, now today we are going to discuss a little bit more about this long human journey. So yesterday I posed 5 questions about, are we on this earth for a reason? If yes, then what is that reason, etc., etc. I'm sure you've all reflected. If you would like to put some points down on the chat, that would be most appreciated. Let me see what you've come up with, inshallah, and that will also help me to pitch this lecture in the right tone, inshallah. Can you all recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad? Allahumma salli.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So while you are putting those comments on the chat, we are going to continue our discussion and then I'll come back to those comments. Brothers and sisters, there is a constant and continuous human characteristic which exists in every single human being from the time of Nabi Adam until today and until the day of judgment. Every single human being, they have a yearning to understand the situation they are in. No one will say, I don't care about my situation. I don't want to understand reality. No, every single person will want to understand the situation they are in and the reality which is around them. They want to make sense of the world around them. And this is why we see that people are always progressing. They are always researching. They are always looking into things. They are always moving forward. Technology moves forward. Science moves forward. Medicine moves forward. All of these things in general, we are moving forward. We're getting more and more sophisticated and skilled and talented as a human race. Every religion has its own way of understanding this reality. And every religion kind of gives an analogy about this, how we are living in this world and how we should understand it. My question today is, and I would like to see your views on the chat. Please answer this question for me. What about Islam? What analogy does Islam use to explain itself and to explain the reality, the universe, the world, and everything? What is the analogy of Islam? If you could pinpoint one thing that Islam says about how to understand this world and the hereafter and everything in between, what would that be? Please put it on chat so I can see. Whilst you're doing that, I'll give you an example. Number one, Christianity. Look at Christianity, for example. When you think of Christianity, what would you say their slogan is? Well, Christians, they've been very good in giving one consistent message of the way their religion is and the way they understand everything. And they use the concept of love. Whenever anyone thinks about Christianity as a religion, we think that it's a religion of love, okay? Love between people, love between God and humans, love between God and Jesus. Of course, we don't look at it in the same way, but I'm just giving an example. Jewish people, they have their own ways of looking at it. Hindus, they have their own way of looking at it. Zoroastrians, they have their own way of looking at it. Every single culture or religion or philosophy, they use some kind of analogy to explain their religion. Okay, so now what is the method or analogy or example that Islam uses? Okay, so from what I have understood, from what I have seen, from what I have researched, there's one thing we can very clearly say about Islam. Sister Shanaz has said this dunya is a bridge to the akhirah. Interesting. Okay, I will come back to that. Mir Raza, reformation. Salma, Tawheed. MD Hassan, surrender is beyond you. Maybe someone else is saying jihad. Obedience. These are all interesting ideas. The one which I feel sums it up. So if any non-Muslim was to ask you, give me in one line what your religion is all about, I would say this one line very nicely sums it up. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This one sentence sums up very nicely our entire religion. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Surely we are from Allah and surely we are returning to Him. This one sentence sums up the whole of Islam. In that one sentence, in that one philosophy, we can put many things. Sharia comes in there, laws come in there, etiquettes and adab come in there, wajibat come in there, ibadat come in there, mustahabbat come in there, muharramat and unlawful things come in there, makruhat come in there, ahadith comes in there, Quran, Ahlul Bayt, history, angels, revelation, jinn, akhirat, dunya, everything comes into this one kind of summarized slogan of Islam, that we are on a journey. We come from one point and we are going round and we want to return to that same point. Okay? So it's a journey. It's a circular journey. Now the critical thing, especially to my younger brothers and sisters, to the youths of the community, the critical thing to understand, and it's easy to say, but it's difficult to understand properly. That's why I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. The critical thing to understand is that your time in this world, in that circular movement, in that circular journey, okay, in that inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, your time in this world is very, very short. It's extremely short. If we take the journey, you're talking about a minute, minuscule amount of time you spend in this world. Okay? So I'll give you an example. You go on holiday. You go on holiday and you book a hotel. When you go to the hotel, okay, you say, okay, I'm going to be in this hotel for a week. It's got a bed, it's got some seating, it's got a desk, it's got a bathroom. You say to yourself, you know what, I'll be here for a week, but I don't like the color of this room. I'm going to go and I'm going to buy some paint and I'm going to paint the room a different color. At the moment, the room looks blue. I like it to be white. Does it make sense? Would you do that? No one would do that, because you would say, but you're only here for a week. What's the point? Why are you spending time, energy, and effort painting your hotel room? You're only going to be here 7 days. It doesn't make sense. You say, you know, this chair, I don't like it. I like a different chair. So I'm going to go to the local shop. I'm going to buy a chair. I'm going to bring it here and I will leave it here. Again, someone will say, it doesn't make sense. You're only here for 7 days. What's the point? We unfortunately fall into this trap. This world is like a stopping place. It's just a temporary place. The first reality that I want to get you to put in your minds, especially the younger members, this world is not your home. This is an in-between place. This is a temporary place. This is just a stopping place. You're not going to stay here for very long. You may think, no, it's not 1 week. I'm in this world for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, whatever. So it's not a week. But it is. If you compare it to the whole journey, this time of 60, 70, 80, 90 years, whatever it may be, it's not long at all. So we have to bear these things in mind, that this world is not a permanent place. It's a place of passing through, temporary, like a hotel room. So we have to be very careful. How much time, effort, and energy do we want to put into this world? Do we want to paint the world like we want to paint the hotel room? Do we want to change everything? Do we want to invest so much things in there? Do we want to put so much time and energy? Think very carefully. It doesn't make sense to be overly invested and overly spending time and energy in this world. So number one, this is not my home. This is not my abode. This is just my temporary resting place. It's a temporary place. I have to be very smart and very careful what I do and how much time and energy I invest here. Another example. We are, at the moment, whilst we are in this world, we are made up of two things, body and soul, badan and ruh. Ruh in this world, okay, think of this analogy. You go right now, let's say, you know, people like Elon Musk and Tesla and other people, they're saying we want to create a colony on Mars, right? So they want human beings eventually to settle on Mars and have a colony there. Okay. Can we exist on Mars as we are now? Can this body of ours exist on Mars? It can't. We will need a spacesuit. We will need special kind of environment. We will need to set up special kind of pressurized accommodation. There's so many things to think about. But this body cannot exist on Mars in its current form. Guess what? Ruh cannot exist in this world in its current form. The way we need a spacesuit to live on Mars, Ruh needs a spacesuit to live on Earth. That spacesuit is the body. The body's function is only to survive in this world so that the Ruh can spend some time here. The body is not designed for beyond this world, but yet we invest so much time and energy into our bodily needs, our bodily image. I'm not saying we don't take pride in the way we appear. I'm not saying we don't want to be healthy. Yes, but we tend to overdo it sometimes. We spend so much time in bodily comforts, bodily luxuries, bodily needs. Our time and energy goes. We don't have any more time and energy left to spend on the soul and the ruh. So this body eventually will be left behind. Yes, Sister Shanaz, what about sleep when ruh is said to separate from body? Inshallah, I will try to cover that. Let me cover it now in case I forget later. At night time, the ruh does separate from the body, but it is still connected. The connection is not severed, okay? And that's why the body sleeps. So the ruh, it doesn't actually, when it exits the body, but it's still connected, it doesn't go in the world, like it doesn't operate in the world. It doesn't do the bodily things in the world. It actually enters into barzakh. This is our belief, that the ruh, the soul, enters into barzakh during your sleep, okay? So it's not actually fulfilling the functions of this world. It doesn't drive a car, it doesn't run around, it doesn't eat, it doesn't sleep, etc., right? You need the body for that. So eventually we will leave this body behind. This body is going to be buried. This body is going to rot in the earth. Our bones will eventually decay. This body is not going to travel forward. This body is going to stay in this world, and it is not designed for the next life. It is the ruh which is designed for the next life. We tend to get things confused. We tend to spend too much time on bodily things. We want to live the best, drive the best, wear the best, smell the best, eat the best, etc., etc. It's fine in one way, but when it overpowers you and your lifestyle, then it becomes a problem. So we have many people, middle-aged people, people of a certain age with certain age children. They regularly report, they say, Shaykh, we don't have any time. You say Islam, 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 and pray and this and that and reflect and ponder and Quran and Ahlul Bayt and Majlis and this and that, but we don't have time. So I remember a conversation that I had with someone. I was called into one of the community madrasas. I went to that madrasa. They said, we need some tips, we need some points, we need some help from you. I said, sure. So I went there and I sat with the teachers. So one of the teachers said to me, she said, look, I have a problem. I don't have time to prepare for my classes. I'm so busy that I don't have time to prepare for my classes. So I said to her, okay, give me an example. So she said, I'm going to teach this topic tomorrow. I can't remember the topic right now. She said, I'm going to teach this topic tomorrow. Please give me some points about this topic. So I said, sure, sister, look, I'm going to email you a few links. There's this link, there's this link, there's this link. Look at these links, listen to those things, read them, reflect upon them. That will give you more than enough information for your class tomorrow. She said, no. I'm sorry, I cannot do that. I said, why? She said, I have maximum 5 minutes to 10 minutes to prepare for each lesson that I teach in madrasa. She said, I don't have any time for that. You will have to write it out for me and give it to me in bullet form. I said to her, I'm thankful that my children are not in your class. Because if you're telling me you prepare for 5 or 10 minutes before each class, then I'm thankful my children are not in your class. So she was taken aback. Because we Maulanas, we're meant to be always polite, right? But sometimes we need to be a bit harsh to get the message across. She said, what do you mean? I said, this is wrong. You need to really assess your lifestyle. Why is it that you only have 5 to 10 minutes to prepare? Something is not right. Where are you prioritizing? What are you giving more priority to? What could be more important than preparing to teach the next generation of the community? And that really struck her. And she said, you know what? I never thought about it like this. Why is it? Yes. Why do I only have 5 to 10 minutes? This is wrong. And she actually, credit to her, she went back and she looked at her life. She looked at what she was doing. She looked at all her obligations. And she said, you know what? I am misprioritizing. I am prioritizing in a wrong way. I'm giving far too much time to some things, and I'm neglecting some other things. So brothers and sisters, we have a long human journey ahead of us. We are here only temporarily. We are here only to facilitate our ruh in this world, and we need this body to do that. We have to be very careful not to overpower our bodies with bodily luxuries, and then we will have no time and energy left for our souls. Quran says regarding the journey of the human being, Ya ayyuhal insan, innaka kadihun ila rabbik kadhan famulaqi. O man, Ya ayyuhal insan, this is an address to all human beings, whether they are Muslims or not, whether they are Ahl Kitab or not, whether they are atheist or not, it doesn't matter. All human beings, Allah says, you are laboring toward your Lord laboriously with great effort and great struggle, and you will encounter him. There's a question. So what purpose would you say is the ruh supposed to fulfill? Please bear with me. We will come on to that, inshallah. All human beings are told, you are laboring, struggling. It's difficult for you to reach your Lord, but famulaqi, you will eventually reach him. Everyone reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How they reach, how quickly they reach, in what manner they reach, this is the difference. So this is an address to all human beings. It is a journey, and everyone will meet the Lord, and everyone is struggling to get back to that spiritual home. Now, what do we need on a journey? Whenever we are going from A to B, what do we need? We need 3 things. Number 1, we need to know our starting point. Where are we? If I don't know where I am, I don't know where I can go. Number 2, we need to know the destination, the end point. Where do I want to reach? And number 3, we need to know what is the best route to get there. In Arabic, we use the following words. Starting point, we say mabda, point of start. End point, we say ma'ad, where am I going to? And the route, this is the important thing. What is the route? So we want to know where we start, where we end, and what is the route. So our current position is we are in this world, we are in this dunya. Our end point is akhirat and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the hereafter. The root is Islam. In Islam, Sharia comes in, spirituality comes in, irfan comes in. In other words, religion. Religion comes in. Now, a question which arises is which Islam to follow? What kind of Islam? There are so many opinions. There are so many interpretations. There are different schools of thought. Who do I follow? Within one school of thought, I have different scholars. Within one school of thought, I have people saying slightly different things. How do I know, as a community person, as a non-expert, how do I know who to follow and who to not follow? Right? That's a common question. There's another question which has just come in from Danish. Is akhirah purely spiritual or a bodily experience? Very, very quickly, Danish, just to answer that question before we move forward. Akhirah is all 3 dimensions exist in akhirah. There is a physical dimension, there is a soul dimension, and there's a barzakhi dimension. It's a little bit complicated. I don't want to get into details. But yes, the body is used in akhirah, but in a different way than this world, okay? We don't really have the scope to go into that in detail. It's quite a philosophical topic. So let's just park that for the moment. So how do we know? What do we follow? Where do we go? Who do we refer to? Quran tells us that there are two levels of Allah's signs. So whenever you're on a journey, you need a sign, right? You need something to tell you this direction. You have arrows, you have markings, you have pointers. It tells you how many miles are left to this certain place. Quran has signs. Quran describes many signs of Allah. Look at, for example, Surah Rum. Allah mentions a number of signs. And these are the category which I would call obvious signs. Okay? So he says in Surah Rum, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, from amongst his signs, أَنْ خَلَقَكُم مِّن تُرَابٍ, he has made you of clay. ثُمَّ إِذَا أَنْتُمْ بَشَرٌ تَنْتَشِرُونَ, then he spreads you throughout the earth. Okay, we know this. We've seen this around us. We know we are made of clay. We know that there are different people in different parts of the world. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. We have spouses. They are signs for us. We find peace and tranquility in our families, in our spouses. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ خَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. He's created the heavens and the earth. These are also his signs. وَاخْتِلَافُ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ. You speak different languages. وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. You are of different colors. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ مَنَامُكُمْ بِاللَّيْلِ. From his signs, you sleep at night. You work, you seek his grace. And there are so many of these common, obvious signs. So I am going to ask you another question now, and please put your comments on the chat. These are obvious signs. We are created from clay, we know. We sleep at night, we know. We work in the day, we know. We have different colors and different tongues and different languages, we know. So Allah is not telling us anything that we don't know. So then if we have all these signs around us, why are we not getting closer to him? Why are we not getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What do you think? What is the answer? If these signs are all around us and these signs are so obvious, why are we not getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We are too distracted. Okay, Muhammad Rahim says we are too distracted. In a nutshell, Muhammad Rahim, you've got it. We are too distracted. I'm going to give you a story now. This is a story. This is a story which may sound a bit childish, but I assure you it's not childish. This is from the great mystic Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi. Brothers and sisters, if you haven't looked into the old Persian poets, the mystical poets, Hafiz, Rumi, Sa'adi, then you should spend some time and look at what they've written. Rumi has got a number of poems in which he describes stories. This is one of the stories, okay? Please, I ask the adults, don't dismiss this as a childish story. Think about it. So the story is like this, and the children will enjoy this as well. The story is that there was a jungle. And the jungle was a very dry, barren place, not much water, not much vegetation in terms of fruit and these things. So for many miles around, there was nothing, except in the middle of the jungle, there was an oasis. An oasis means there was water, there was a spring, there were trees, there were fruits. All of these things were there in the oasis. The oasis had many different animals. All the animals were eating and drinking from this oasis. If they were deprived of this oasis, they would probably die because there was nothing for miles and miles. One day, a group of elephants come to this oasis. The elephants begin to stampede and trample upon the different animals. And they made them all scared. And they said, look, just get away from here. This is now our place. We are going to stay here. We are going to dominate. No other animal can come here. Only elephants. All the animals went. They were upset. They got kicked out. And then they got together. The animals, away from the oasis, they got together. They said, now what are we going to do? We're going to die. We're going to die of hunger. We're going to die of thirst. So there was one rabbit amongst them. The rabbit says, you know what? Leave it to me. I've got this. I'm going to make sure these elephants leave. Look how clever, and look what he does, and look how clever he was, okay? And this is a very important point. So one day, the rabbit goes into the oasis, and all of the elephants, they're looking at this rabbit, and they're angry. And they say, hang on a second, what are you doing here? We told you you're not allowed to come here. This is our place now. So the rabbit says, I wish to speak to your king. Call him, and I've got a message for him. So the king comes and says, what do you want? The rabbit says, I am a prophet, and I've been sent to give you a message. So the king says, the king of the elephant says, you're a prophet of who? What are you talking about? He says, my Lord is the moon, and he has sent me as a prophet to give you a warning. The elephant says, what is the warning? He says, my Lord, the moon, he said, you must clear this place. You must go from here and allow everyone to come back and drink from this oasis. The elephant king starts to laugh. All of the elephants begin to laugh. They've never heard such a ridiculous thing. They say, you know what? You must be some kind of joker, but we're not interested. Go away. He said, no, I have a warning. If you do not, then my Lord, the moon, will show you his power on the 14th night of this month. And then the rabbit goes away. So the elephant king now has a doubt in his mind. 95% he's thinking this rabbit is crazy, but 5% there's a doubt in his mind. When it comes to the 14th night, the elephant king stands up and he's thirsty. So he goes to the water. When he reaches the water, he sees what in the water? The reflection of the moon. He sees the moon in the water because it's reflecting. And that makes him a bit surprised. And he's still got that doubt in his mind. So he looks at the moon and he says, wow, what a amazing, because on the 14th night, the rabbit was clever. On the 14th night, the moon is the brightest. So he says, wow, look at this moon. And then he puts his trunk into the oasis to drink water. And what happens when a trunk goes into the water? It makes ripples, right? So when it makes ripples, the moon's reflection begins to shake. And he says, oh my God, this is the sign that the rabbit told me about, that his Lord will be very angry with me if I do this. And that puts more doubt in his mind. And he tells his other elephants, he says, you know what? Let's leave here. We'll go to a different place. Let's leave this for the animals. I don't want to anger this Lord of the rabbit anymore. So they get up and they go and the other animals come. Now, what is the point here? Think about this carefully. Why did the elephant simply not look up and see the moon in the sky? That would have solved everything. He would have seen, oh, this is just a reflection. The moon is actually up there. The rabbit was lying to me. There's no issue here. There's no Lord. There's no prophet. There's nothing. But why didn't he? So if you think of the skeleton of an elephant, the way an elephant is made, its head is permanently down. Its head is always arched over. The eyes always look down. They cannot actually physically look up. Okay, that's the nature of an elephant. So the point Rumi is making here, he says, look, sometimes we are like elephants. We always have our head down. We never see the bigger picture. We never see the bigger reality of life. One of the biggest distractions we have is we are constantly looking down literally at our phones, our smartphones. Yes, of course, technology has a big role to play. Technology is important. We couldn't do these majalis without technology, but there has to be a limit. There has to be some kind of perspective where we see the bigger world, the bigger perspective, the bigger realities around us. So we have many distractions, many worldly, materialistic, business-related, work-related, school-related distractions, Unfortunately, we tend to give all of those things priority over our religion. The homework which I would like you to think about and reflect upon is each and every one of you individually, okay, it has to be done individually, think and identify what are the distractions in your life. Now, this is your homework. Now, the Quran mentions general signs, which we have just discussed, and then it mentions specific signs. So the question was earlier that when we have so many different opinions and so many different scholars and so many access to so many people now on YouTube, everyone's on YouTube, we can listen to everyone whenever we want. How do we decipher whom to follow and whom not to follow? This is a very important discussion. Quran says in Surah Tawbah, verse number 119, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqeen. This is the first thing Quran tells us. If you want to know whom to follow, whom to keep company with, this is a general guideline. Kunu ma'as sadiqeen. Be with the truthful. Be with the truthful. Who are the truthful? The absolutely truthful are Ahlul Bayt. Okay? So that is one clear sign we have. Rasulullah, A'imma, alayhimus salam, Bibi Fatima, these are Ahlul Bayt, these are Sadiqeen, these are the truthful ones. We have to be with them at all times. Okay, no problem. No one will debate this. But now what? Now our Imam is not with us. He's in Ghaiba. What do we do now? Quran says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ إِلَّا رِجَالًا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِمْ. We have not sent anyone before you except as men to whom we revealed, meaning the other prophets. But now we don't have prophets. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Now in the time when you don't have prophets and you don't even have your Imam accessible to you, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. Ask the people of the reminder if you do not know. So the people of the reminder are who? Who are the Ahlul Dhikr? These are the Ahlul Bayt. So we say to the Ahlul Bayt, now what do we do? You're not with us. They say, refer to our sincere, just, knowledgeable followers. In other words, the ulama. This is the importance of true ulama. And how do we identify the true ulama? Let me tell you, it's very simple. It's not complicated at all. When you see an alim who has his qualifications from Najaf and Qum, these are our two outstanding, centuries old, very established, very knowledgeable, brilliant. They have produced amazing scholars, Najaf and Qum. When you see these, you can be confident that this person is reliable. However, we need to do a bit more research and digging. When you see the person is not worldly, this is also another one. When you see the person is adil and just and doesn't do sins openly at least, and if he does them in private, well, we will never know about it. But at least from what we can see, he's not a sinner. He's adil, he's knowledgeable, he unifies people. This is very, very important. When you see a speaker disunifies, creates groups and factions, I'm sorry, I think you should stay away. When you see a scholar or a speaker unifying people, reducing tensions, reducing the stress in community, reducing factions and groupings, this is a scholar. So you have these few points, and this is how you decipher whom to follow and whom not to follow. We have a good point here from Muhammad Rahim. One thing you can do is like putting phone away from 11 p.m. and leaving it away from your bedroom. It's a very good point. It's a very, very good point. If you can do even more than that, then alhamdulillah. If you can have some times where you don't pick it up for a few hours, alhamdulillah. If you're going to have a cutoff time, then alhamdulillah. But phone is just one thing. We have many things, okay? Now, Let's go back to Islam's view once again. As long as we are like the elephants and we have a restricted and narrow view of this world, as long as we don't lift our heads in a metaphorical sense and look around us and realize the true reality of this world, we will never appreciate the broad and bigger picture of Islam. We will never be able to understand Islam. So when a young person, a youth says, I don't understand this religion, and this religion doesn't make sense to me, the first question I always ask is, how much have you invested in this religion? Can I come along? Can I just stand up in a crowd of people and say, I don't understand medical science. It doesn't make any sense to me. The first question someone will ask is, excuse me, what research have you done already in medical science? Like how many years? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, 50 years? How much research have you done? You know, it's very easy for us to say these things, that this doesn't make sense and this doesn't make sense. Come on, how much have we invested? How much do we understand? How much have we researched? How much have we read? How much have we looked into? So we don't want to do the hard part, but we're very quick to make the judgments and quickly dismiss things. This is not the way of Ahlul Bayt. So as long as we don't do this, we will have a very narrow and restricted view of Islam. One thing which is a very important thing, and this is from our beloved sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far Sadiq, alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Imam says, the sixth Imam says, whenever you see a funeral and you see people carrying that body or that coffin, for a moment, stop, look at it, and consider, just for a moment, that inside that coffin, it is me. And reflect on that. So Imams, to get us out of this worldly and materialistic way of thinking, they regularly give us the reminder of death. They say, go to the graveyards, think about death, have a kafan in your possession that you can see and you can see it regularly so that it reminds you. Do all of these things and that will wake you up and get you away from the distractions. The Holy Prophet and the Quran tell us again and again, be ready for death. Be acquainted with death as much as possible. Realize that one day you will be accounted for, and never ever oppress anyone, because to get forgiven for oppression to another person, you have to be forgiven by that person. Unfortunately, people are not merciful like Allah. They may never forgive, and we will have to pay for it. So we have to be very, very careful. So, bringing this all together, I want to now conclude with 2 practical tips. The first is that when we came into this world, how many sins had we done? When we were born, how many sins were on our record? 0. There were no sins on us at all. We don't believe in original sin, by the way. There were no sins on us at all. When we leave this world, how many sins will be on us? So, if we came into this world clean, but we are leaving dirty, have we really evolved or have we not evolved? Have we used this world properly or we didn't use it properly? So the first practical tip, which I'm going to give around 10 during these lectures. The first practical tip is self-analysis. What state are you in? What are your distractions? How sinful are you? And this is each individual themselves, because in Islam, we never ever reveal our sins to other people. So it's just you on your own. Don't reveal to anyone else any sins that you've done or that you are doing. Self-analysis. What state am I in? Where am I? How close to Allah? Am I happy with my spiritual state? Am I distracted too much? Do I have a good understanding of Islam? And second practical tip, once you've done the self-analysis, this comes from the dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. on the 1st of Muharram, the Holy Prophet had this dua to recite. Allahumma anta ilahul qadim. Oh Allah, you are the eternal Lord. Wa hadhihi sanatun jadida. And this is a new year starting. We don't celebrate New Year, but obviously it is the beginning of the year. Wa hadhihi sanatun jadida. This is the start of the year. فَأَسْأَلُكَ الْعِسْمَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ. Rasulullah asked for the first thing, which was protection from shaitan. So once you have self-analyzed, pray to Allah, oh Allah, I want protection from shaitan. Then Rasulullah says, وَالْقُوَّةَ عَلَى هَذِهِ النَّفْسِ الْأَمَّارَةِ. And Lord, give me the strength upon my nafse ammara. I'm going to explain nafse ammara. That's the second dua. So first is protection from shaitan. Second is strength over my nafs. وَالْإِشْتِغَالِ بِمَا يُقَرِّبُنِي إِلَيْكَ يَا كَرِيمٌ. And oh my Lord, make me busy with that which will make me closer to you. Three things: protection from shaitan, strength upon nafs. Thirdly, give me the things in my life that make me closer to you. Don't let me waste my time here. So, first tip, self-analysis. Second tip, seek help from Allah on these three things: shaitan, nafs, and being too distracted and busy in this world. We will stop here for the discussion part, and we will move on to the masa'ib. I'm just going to quickly check the comments. Okay, one of the brothers, I think it's a brother, we need to hear more of history of Karbala and Islam. Okay, I've chosen a topic, by the way, and that's the topic that I've agreed with your community, and that's what I'm going to deliver, inshallah. Many are too distracted with the bad rumors and controversial issues of the religion that they did not have time to gain knowledge of the religion, end up being further away from religion itself. Yes, absolutely, that's true. But at the end of the day, you see, we have to ask, who's losing out? If there are controversies and there are distractions and I'm getting diverted and I'm getting distracted, I'm losing out. So every individual has to think for themselves and come to a conclusion, because you can only take a person so far. You know, it's difficult to really influence someone. You know, if you have kids, you cannot force them. After a certain age, they're virtually independent. You can only encourage, you can only advise, you can only persuade. But you know, every individual has to understand that if I keep getting diverted by controversies and distractions and different scholars and things which are, you know, just consuming my mind, I'm not putting any energy or life or time into the really important things, which is Islah, reformation. Thank you for the comments, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, now let us turn our attention towards our beloved Imam. It is the 2nd of Muharram. There are two things in history to cover. One is the departure of Imam Hussein alayhi salam from Medina, and the other is, traditionally we recite, the arrival to Karbala. Imam Rada alayhi salam says to his companion, he says, Yabna Shabib, in kunta bakiyan li shay'in fabki lil Hussein ibn Ali. O Ibn Shabib, if you are ever going to cry on anything, then make sure you cry upon Hussein ibn Ali, for he was slaughtered as the animals are slaughtered. All of the Anbiya have cried for Abu Abdullah. Nabi Adam has cried for Abu Abdullah. Nabi Nuh cried for Abu Abdullah. Nabi Ibrahim cried for Abu Abdullah. Rasulullah cried for Abu Abdullah. Janab Fatima cried for Abu Abdullah. In one narration, Janab Fatima comes to her father, to the Holy Prophet, and says, Ya Abata, I want to ask you something. He says, my dear daughter, tell me, what do you wish to ask? She says, Abata, when in these days of pregnancy, with this child of mine, meaning Imam Hussein. I can hear him say certain things. Rasulullah says, my daughter, what do you hear him say? She replies, I hear him saying, Ana al-gharib, I am the lonely, wa ana al-madhloom, and I am the one who is oppressed. All the Anbiya, all of the Imams, all of the Panjatan, they have cried for Abu Abdullah. We wish to join them and to cry over Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was in Medina. The letter comes from the accursed Yazid to his governor Walid. Walid reads the letter. The letter says, summon Abu Abdullah and make sure you take allegiance from him to Yazid. The governor summons Imam Hussein and says, we want to see you. Imam Hussein gathers the youths of Bani Hashim. He gathers Ali Akbar, Hazrat Qasim, Janab Abbas. He says, you all come with me. They all go with Imam. They go to the court of Walid. Imam says to them, I will proceed alone, but you remain outside. When you hear my voice is raised, I want you to come in. It means that I'm in danger. They all say, of course. Imam goes in. Walid says to Imam, you must give your allegiance. Imam says, I'm sorry. Someone like me can never give allegiance to someone like Yazid. Walid begins to threaten Imam. Imam raises his voice. The youths of Bani Hashim come into the court. They all pull out their swords. Walid sees that there is no chance to do anything to Imam Hussein. He says, okay, you may go. We will talk another time. When the youths and Imam Hussein go back to the house of Imam Hussein in Medina, Janab Zainab is there waiting. When Janab Zainab sees that her brother has come back safely, she begins to smile and she was happy. She welcomes them back. And then she looks at Abbas alayhi salam. When she looks at Hazrat Abbas, she sees Hazrat Abbas is crying. She says, Ya Abbas, oh my brother Abbas, you cry at this time, but Hussein is fine, he is safe, nothing has happened. Janab Abbas says, oh my sister, it's not that. I am crying because in my presence, they had the audacity to threaten my brother Hussein. And when I saw that they even had the audacity to threaten him, this hurt me to such an extent that I could not control my tears. We say, Janab Abbas, you are in Medina. You have all of the people around you. You have your strength and everything with you. You could not see that someone would threaten your brother. Abbas, Ya Abbas, imagine how would you have felt if you had been alive at that time when your brother was riding his horse and the rain of arrows fell down upon his body and his body was pushed off the horse and fell on the ground of Karbala. How would you have felt when you saw shimmer upon the chest of your brother with his dagger drawn? Janab Abbas alayhi salam was martyred before Imam Hussein. On the 2nd of Muharram, the Qafila of Imam Hussein alayhi salam reaches Karbala. When they reach Karbala, a number of things happen. For shortness of time, I will just make it very short and we will finish the majlis. When Imam Hussein reaches Karbala, he asks a few questions. He says, what is this place called? Someone says to him, this is called Nainawa. He said, no, there must be another name. Someone says, this is called Qaziriya. He says, no, there must be another name. They give him different names of this place. This is a very old place. Karbala is a very old place actually in history. He said, no, I'm looking for another name. He said to them, bring someone very elderly from this area and I want to ask him. When they brought this person, Imam says, what is the name of this place? He says, oh Imam, the old name of this place is that this place is known as Karbin wa Bala. It is known as a place of sorrow and misfortune. Imam begins to make inquiries. He says, let us camp here. We will put our things here. We will make our tents here. Then he makes inquiries. He says, who does this land belong to? They say, this land is belonging to the Bani Asad tribe. He says, call them. I want to speak to the Bani Asad tribe. The Bani Asad tribe come. Imam says, I want to buy this land from you. Bani Asad says, no, Yabna Rasulullah, we will gift it to you. You don't need to buy it. Imam says, no, I insist. I will buy this land from you. They sell the land to Abu Abdullah. Abu Abdullah buys the land and then gives it back to Bani Asad and says, I am gifting it back to you with 3 requests. Will you do 3 things for Gharib Zahra? They say, yes, of course, Imam. Whatever you say, we are with you. We will do these things. Imam says, after the 10th of this month, you will see our bodies lying on the ground of Karbala. Please do me a favor. You will bury our bodies under the sand of Karbala. They said, yes, Imam, we will do this. Imam says that the second thing I wish you to do is do not put any water upon our graves. Do not irrigate them. We don't want crops and things to grow upon our graves. Leave them as graves. They said, yes, Imam, we will do this. Then the third thing is, Azadaran of Imam Hussein, how amazing our Imam is, how kind he is, how gracious he is. The third request is very strange. Imam has remembered you and me in this third request. This third request is for all of us. He says, Bani Asad, my third request is that one day my Zairin, my Zawar, my Zair will come to this place and he will want to visit my grave. When he comes here, I request you, do not let him go empty-handed. Please give him food and water for 3 days. Host him, treat him well, give him all the respect and honor. Imam, you are too kind. You remembered us at the time when you entered Karbala. You remembered us in this most difficult time. Allah la'natullahi al-qawmi al-zalimin. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. مات من حسين.